There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of Savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to words of Professor Buitron.
Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to touch base today on a question that was asked about conditioning at home. And I'm going to tell you the pros and cons about that. But before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel, keeping our content moving forward. We're growing. Savate's kind of like a small niche in the martial arts realm. We got some serious martial artists that are behind us. We got folks that follow us because of the Gloves Off and some of the other entities out there. So the channel of Buitrón Academy is basically a channel for community growth. Gloves Off deals with a lot of community issues, bringing forth candidates, debates, small documentaries, stuff that is around us every day, okay, that we all need to know about, maybe learn and move forward. The Monday questions, I talk about Savate, and we've been doing them. We're in the 80th program. We're reaching 100. We have a bunch of tactics. When we did COVID, we're going to do a bunch of other stuff that we're working on right now. Got several documentaries already in the channel, so look them up. We have some new programs coming of age. We have the year of Savate closing up. A lot of people don't know that Savate is actually a seasonal sport, and it's from September to July, and every year. And August you kind of have a free month, but the schools are still open. Just that, and the guild itself and the Savate entities kind of just freeze for a while. That's just the way it is. It goes along with the collegiate years. That's the question. That's when I asked the question. That's what was told to me by John Weld, who was the president of the French Federation of Savate back in the 90s. So it is a collegiate calendar that we have, and we've been doing so ever since. We have a great event coming in at the end of May, the first weekend of June, actually. It's a 30-second passage de grade. We have some great individuals coming forth. We have Professor André Germain. We have Professor Jean-Louis Lassen. Of course, myself. We're going to be covering all the facets of Savate, from the weapons to the self-defense to the tactics inside the ring. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be 3 long, grueling days, okay? And the test will be on Saturday. We have several people testing. I mean, everything's kicking back in from COVID. Some of the clubs are bringing in members, and that's just the way it is. COVID kind of stopped everything within the Savate realm, but now at least we're picking up. We got some kids coming back in, which are testing for blue, which is great. It's a great motivation for everybody. And hopefully next year we can start planning to start actually traveling out and start spreading Savate out. But the question I was asked, and it was a question that was asked by several students and several that sent emails, and it's basically the same one: conditioning at home, training at home. We always get this question, Professor, I love Savate so much that I'm going to go buy me a heavy bag and start working out the house. Professor, I love Savate so much, I'm going to go buy me one of those dummies to punch at the house. Those, whatever it's called, hey bob or whatever. That silhouette of a man that's on a balancing post that you hit back and forth. Let me tell you something about practicing at home. Let me tell you about practicing at the gym. Let me tell you about practicing without supervision. Okay. I'm a tickler against telegraphing. other martial arts, their perfection kicks, if you look at them in through the eyes of a saboteur, they're telegraphed. Okay. Um, so not everybody that's training has realized what telegraphing is. For example, if I'm going to throw a jab and they do this to throw a jab, that's telegraphing, and it comes forward, or they do this to go wide. Okay, there's a lot of wrongs within that, and so if I'm not there in front of you to see you and correct you, it's a difference. Okay, that's why you need a professor, a monitor that's been doing an apprenticeship to start understanding the whys you're doing certain things wrong. Because believe me, there's a lot of parent so-called instructors of Savate that couldn't fight the way out of a wet paper bag, yet alone understand what telegraphing is because they're doing it and they think it's fine. Okay, let me tell you what happens. When you buy a bag, I'm not against you buying a heavy bag. I'm not against you having equipment at your house. Not at all. Please should not get that way. But when you do, start training correctly on it. So ask how you hit a bag. Ask what drills you can do on the bag, what the equipment is for. A double end bag is not a kick bag. I'm going to punch it as hard as I can. No, it's a timing bag. It's a timing for your defense, for you to be able to move your head out of the way when and get the balancing of the body back and forth when you're hitting, and not only striking a moving object, but also when you hit to get out of the way because that ball's coming back at you. You know, the punching bag or the speed bag that's hanging in the gym. What's it for? I got it from two different people from two different sports, boxing as well as one was Foreman and the other one was Richard Sela. It's to build your shoulders once it's up here. Okay, that's all it's for you to build your shoulders, for you to have a hands, for you not to tire out with your hands, or else you're going to be fighting with your hands down. And I'm not talking about the Philly shell. I'm talking about actually having your hands down. So understand what what the equipment is for and how it's used and what it's supposed to develop through its conditioning process. Now, do you need to wrap your hands when you strike a heavy bag? I would say yes, you have to. But again, I would say no. Okay, because you also have to start learning how to develop your hands and how to develop the muscles around your wrist. Okay, and what it's for. See, now if a person's never been corrected and he's punching like this or punching like this, and he starts hitting the bags this way because, oh man, my hook's pretty slick and I can throw a hook this way, and he has this habit of the class and nobody's ever corrected him. Well, guess what's going to happen to his wrist and to his hands? It's going to snap. It's going to be no more. So understand that, please. So you have to have somebody that's going to correct you, and you have to have the ability to be corrected, because not everybody wants to be corrected. The problem in martial arts nowadays, as it was 20 years ago and 30 years ago when I started, people did not want to let more people nowadays want to be corrected. Everybody's a know-it-all. They already know it. Okay. Now remember, what kind of heavy bag do you want? Do you want an Everlast 90 pounder, 100 pounder, 150 pounder? Do you want a ringside? You want a big old ball that way? Well, if you can, it'll be great because you can practice your high kicks, but you're not going to be able to practice your low kicks. How about a tie bag? Tie bags work perfect for somebody. You want to get a big banana bag. All right. Why? Because you can kick low, you can kick high. Okay. People say, now remember what it is for. It's not whaling it. Start making huge circles to kick that are coming way back here with a fuete. The fuete doesn't go from there. The fuete is a spiraling motion that goes outward. It looks around because we're stepping, we're decollaging, of displacement back and forth on both sides. We're stepping to both sides of the opponent. That's why it looks round, but it's not round. But when you tell people that, they still don't figure it out. And this is what happens. As soon as somebody comes in, they want to go buy a heavy bag. And also they have a heavy bag at their house. So every time you try to correct them at home, I mean at school, they go back home and go back to their mistakes. So you're never going to be correct. That happens 90% of the time. Okay? You tell them to correct it this way and they get mad because they go home and they're kicking the bag and they're basically making it move and it feels good and the power. I get it. I understand that. And guess what happens? Their technique's off. They're telegraphing by beyond belief. They get mad. And they come back and say, well, I'm not learning anything. Professor, look at my kicks. What's going on? Well, let me show me how you're practicing. And the first thing to do that, you correct them. And, well, that's the way I learned it in YouTube. Well, go back to YouTube and start learning. Understand? A lot of folks, not only in Savate and other martial arts, because this goes around for another thing. I'm just talking to you about the experiences that I've had and the life that I've had as a saboteur. And when I lived out there, and that's all we did, friends, I learned from everybody. I paid attention. When you're in school, pay attention. See, ask questions. Don't take things for granted. Certain things don't exist. Just because somebody mentioned it or an article mentioned it, they don't know what Savate is. They've never even studied it, but they're going to assume a lot of incorrections that are out there, and yet they're going to put it in. Remember, Savate has traditions and rules and regulations. Only two different things. There's traditions that you just don't do, rules and regulations. Then Savate Books and Says has its own pedagogy, as well as Savate clubs had their own means of training, as well as Books and Says clubs had. Back then, you can tell the difference by a person from the club that they came from. Right now, you can't, because right now is everything ABC, 1, 2, 3. It's a cookie cutter. And it's natural process of those that are tougher, that have more will, that are becoming champions. Kind of turning straight into boxing. Yeah, you have some ideas from different clubs that are still out there, but everything right now, it's all a federation cookie cutter thing that has developed in the last, I would say, 15 years. Okay, so it's very hard to see. And then you have a lot of Savate that's out around the world that those individuals never been inside a real Savate club, but they're out there teaching and they're out there saying, hey, I'm God Almighty. Listen, I'm not making fun of them. Let them continue doing with what they're doing. So back to the conditioning element of it. When you condition your hands, hit the bag. Don't wail on it. Hit the bag to condition. Okay, move it. Boom, give it a cross. Make that swing so when it comes back at you, you hit. So you start what? Conditioning your bones. You know, that's the bone that you're going to hit with. Okay, that knuckle right there is in line with your ulna and your radius. Okay, that one right here. That's the only one that's in line. So when you start making your fist to hitting here, more likely you're going to crack it. When you start making your fist to hit in some other karates, when they move this way, you're going to end up breaking it. That is a natural bone. That's what it is. Okay, so that should be the first point of impact. That knuckle right there. But most people don't get that. They're going to go out there. They're going to read something over here. Says, remember, those are the philosophies of the East. If you're studying with them, do so. Continue. This is a Western art. I've learned it. I've trained it. People before me do it. They don't have no broken hands. I blew my tendons. That's why my fingers this way. But I had 11 reconstructive surgeries. You can see that. They replaced tendons. At one time, I had 188 stitches in my hand. This is what took me from me not competing anymore. All right? This right here. part of life. But this made me realize one thing, that we had to get back to the street, get back to the basics. And that's why Dance Roots about basically formed. That and a couple of other things that Michel Roger, the president of the International Federation, was doing, which was you couldn't teach Savate as a self-defense. You can only teach Savate book française. Remember that, Savate book française as a sport, not as a self-defense. Took us years to realize that Savate book française is a different discipline. He is correct about that. But when that occurred in 93, 94, the International Guild was actually developed and formed. Dance Roots Savate, the system developed, and the professors that were there was Paturel, Robert Paturel, Jean-Paul Viviani, Roger Lafon, André Germain, Dominique Daclouis, Pierre Shine, Isidro Chapa, myself, my father. We had Laurent Mercadet, at the time also was part of it. And then we had a counselor from the self-defense realm, which was Sifu Kisi, which was a Kempo man. And he was the one that basically said, we all have to start looking at the common denominators of all the teachings. And those became the sets. So, it was a great influence that he had towards dancers. But anyway, to make a long story short, that's where it comes from. So a lot of people say this, and it's a fallacy, and it's wrong. Savate is for the street, and boxe française is for the ring. No, Savate boxe française is a sport. Savate danseru is the martial art element of it. Savate Duru was developed after Savate defense was developed after Danseru Savate. Proven fact. Okay, Box Duru came from Paturel back in 2002 to the present. Great stuff that he's teaching. But it's aligned more with the police element of it. Danseru Savate is not. Danseru Savate is for the common man. So there's differences. I love my professor to death, but he shows great stuff. Believe me, he's my professor. But it was a total different thing that went in from there to here. Okay, here in Danseru Savate, you're going to learn all the weapons, all the kicks, and both the regional stuff. You're going to learn the different disciplines as you progress through the ranking systems. Okay, in France, you learn Savate. Boxing says, "Oh, you want to learn some self-defense? Go do judo now. Or go do some Savate defense." But Savate is defense. It's a martial art. It's a fighting system. Most stupidest name I've ever heard. But and now they have Gandaru and Lutaru and blah 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 Daru. But all that came after Danseru Savate. And a lot of people say Danseru Savate is defense Daru. There's some idiots out there coming up with that bullshit. And defense Daru means defense of the street. Dance Daru means dance of the street. Why is it named that way? It's very simple. There's a common phrase throughout French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and of course English. And that is, do you want to dance? Well, I got beef, want to dance. So that's why we named it Dance Daru, because of that phrase. All right. Unfortunately, that's what happened. And Dance Daru has been since ever since then. Again, coming back with conditioning. I'm not against anybody buying heavy bag and having equipment at their house. By far, you need to continue training, but learn what you're training. Go ask your instructor if you're doing it correctly. And if your instructor punches like this, goes forward, go to another school. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. Plain and simple. Listen, there's a lot of people out there teaching martial arts. There's a lot of people teaching self-defense. There's guys out there that never fought in their life. Their sisters used to take care of them, and they're out there teaching. Remember that. Once more, you all stay safe, be at peace, and continue moving forward. We got some great questions that are coming up, but the conditioning one was a fact. You have to start conditioning again. Um, I'm not going to quit now because now I got into a thought. A lot of the old Japanese systems, they used to use a makiwara. Why? Because they were conditioning their hands to hit solidly when you hit hit an object, hit a person. Okay, it was not something that people claim it was a one-shot kill. No, I don't want to break my hands when I go there. So you have to understand how you hit, when you hit, and so on and so forth. Boxers doing the conditioning. Problem with wrapping the hands is for you not to do this type of motion while you're fighting, because this occurs. Your relaxed state, and you hit them, and you hit them in this format, but still, that's that knuckle that went inside. A lot of people are going to hit you, and they're going to bend that. Fortunately, accidents occur. So train at your maximum when you're at the school. If you want to condition, do some road work, do some jump rope, do some sit-ups, do some other stuff that's out there, do some weights if you have to. If you're too skinny, pack a little bit of muscle on there, unless you're going to go compete. If you're going to compete, stay where you're at. Okay. Because if you're 5'2" and you weigh 200 pounds, who do you think you're going to be fighting? Another 5'2" that weighs 200 pounds? Or you're going to fight a 6-foot guy that weighs 200 pounds? Understand the difference. Okay. Not saying one's going to win over the other. Inside the ring, there's a lot of little different elements that occur. Okay. Now, once more, for those that if you all wish to come train at the 32nd Passage of God, drop me an email, buitronacademy@gmail.com. If you want to learn more of the system, jump on board our crew, which is at Buy Me a Coffee at Buitron Academy. So next up, much peace.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Buitron Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kenpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Hello, my name is Jaime Garcia. I started Savate when I was 17 or 18. I'd like to say it was because I was in search of knowledge, but truth be told, I joined Savate because I got my ass kicked in a bar. My mouth was writing checks, my ass couldn't cash cash, so I figured I should learn how to fight. I was looking through the paper, trying to find someone that I could really learn something from, and I came across Buitron's school. Even though it was on the other side of town for me, I wanted to go someplace where I wasn't going to be wasting my time. So I came by. He was nice enough to take me on as a student, and I started learning. I went all the way up until I think it was white glove, pretty consistently. As a matter of fact, I think I even failed one glove because one year I wasn't prepared enough. I believe it was my green glove. So I had to take my green glove twice, but definitely didn't stop me from coming back because that was definitely my fault. But I kept coming back year after year, and I loved it. I had to stop when I was about 25, 26. I had to go to school, I had to go off to college, but I never forgot what I learned here, and I promised myself I would always come back. I just had to get some life stuff done. So I went to school. Savate definitely not only gave me the confidence to do so many other things in my life, but it also got me out of a lot of trouble that I admittedly got myself into. But definitely one of the most important things I ever learned in my life was how to fight. I finally came back. Even though I live in Austin, which is a good 3.5 hours away, I still make the time to come every month to come and learn because it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, one of the best things I ever did. And I believe it gives a person something that the society is very much missing these days, which is a discipline and a drive to go forward, drive to keep doing what you're doing. And I believe in it so much, I'm just waiting for my kids to get old enough to hopefully start doing it themselves. And yeah, best thing I ever did in my life, and I wouldn't change it.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at Savate.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.